Hello and welcome to BrookesTV. I'm Chess Cooper.
And I'm Will Johnson. Coming up in this week's episode...
Is racism an underlying problem gone unnoticed in universities?
Will the new voting registration process affect the turnout of young voters?
And we explore a different realm of music and find out what these unusual pieces are. David Cameron in 2011 addressed the highly controversial issues of racism in higher education. Latoya Gale went to investigate.
When choosing a university, students are often bombarded with information regarding job prospects and student experience. Despite many UK universities being multicultural, issues of racial inequality is often overlooked as a potential impact on students' university experience.
We've done some surveys with students, and some of our international students and some students from British and minority ethnic groups aren't quite as satisfied with the student experience as other students. Some of our students have expressed some feelings of isolation initially when they come to Brookes, so in the very first week or two, and that's something we need to do more about. I think much more could be done to celebrate diversity. It's not just about sorting out problems of racial inequality.
The Race for Equality report in 2011 outlined 1 in 6 black students experienced racism in their current institution. This aligned with David Cameron highlighting a lack of minority students' admissions at Oxford University.
Going into the surrounding city, I've noticed that there are a lot more cultures and ethnicities present. They're not represented in Oxford University. You don't think about what you're going to have to go through as a minority student on campus and the obstacles you're going to have to deal with in the process of getting to that prestigious degree that everyone looks forward to. So there is racism here. People just don't feel comfortable talking about it.
The most recent report from Brookes University shows 13.9% of their students identify themselves as belonging to an ethnic minority background. We spoke to students to see if their student experience had been affected by their race.
I don't think racism is a problem at Oxford Brookes University because a lot of the marking's done anonymously.
I don't think I've experienced, as a witness or as a foreigner, any episode of racism.
Not within the university, but outside the university, people kind of decided to disregard my ethnic background based on the fact that I'm white and I have blue eyes.
Although representation of ethnicities seems to not discourage students from studying in Oxford, it's clear much is being done to tackle the issues students face here.
We have 2 police officers on site. At first instance, if someone feels that it's very serious, they can be approached, their names are around, and we also have ISAT and student advice within the student union. We operate an open door policy where students come in and share their story, and issues can be dealt with properly. And we have members of staff, academic advisors that students can approach and speak to.
Oxford University has introduced numerous schemes which students can use to voice their issues, such as the ACS and CRE, whilst Oxford Brookes is enrolled on the National Equality Challenge scheme. But will these measures encourage more students to come and study within Oxford? And will the students that do study in Oxford have a better student experience? This is Latoya Gale reporting for BrookesTV News.
Last September, the government introduced a new piece of legislation that required individuals to register themselves in order to vote.
Latoya Gale looks at how the new voting registration could affect the outcome.
Under the coalition government, young people have seen the abolishment of EMA, the increase in tuition fees, and lower job prospects. With UKIP, the SNP and the Liberal Democrats now being potential kingmakers for either the Conservative or Labour Party, the youth's votes will be vital in deciding if the Prime Minister gets to keep his job at number 10 Downing Street. In a recent study by the BBC, it was revealed that only half of 18 to 24-year-olds are registered to vote. Could this be due to the drastic changes in the way we register to vote?
Yeah, I mean, the new registration process has definitely made it more difficult for students to register. Previously, if you were living in halls, then the halls manager would register you, or your parents would register you. And this is no longer the case, so we all have to individually register ourselves.
What it really affects are younger people who move around more, particularly obviously in our case in Oxford students.
Big issues around this is there's been no comms from the government, which is pretty weak on their behalf when you consider that there's been unprecedented cuts to local government and funding going to local government, and yet they've then added this extra expense. They've expected local government to be the ones to communicate this change. And so there just haven't been the funding there to do a major campaign around you need to register to vote, and that's why it's fallen to organisations like us.
But we have actually just started a campaign last week, a poster campaign on the radio and so on, a campaign to make sure people are signed up, and therefore the corollary is that they then go forward and vote.
So how effective has this campaign been?
I actually didn't know anything about the change at all, so I was just told I actually wasn't old enough to vote last time, so this time this is the first time I've been put down. So
I actually work for Brookes Union, and so I was chatting to the man that was organising like the stuff to encourage people to re-register and stuff, so literally from the horse's mouth.
I didn't know that there were actually any changes that had to be made. I only re-registered to vote here.
I know the government sent around letters or something a while ago, but they sent them to my home address, so I never saw that. So.
With flaws in the new registration process apparent, why are we changing it in the first place?
It's a more robust system of registering people, that they do exist. It's to combat electoral fraud, essentially. You cannot vote twice at a national level election, even though you may be registered in two places, but there isn't a system by which we would check that, no.
Will more young people vote on May the 7th, and what will the outcome mean for them?
Oxford Brookes launches a new documentary club, but is another club really what students need to better student experience?
Oxford Brookes University launched its first documentary club at the John Henry Brookes building after being funded £2,000 by Vice-Chancellor Paul Inman. However, it raises concerns for current courses that continuously require funding that could better student experience. We managed to speak to Paul Inman and other members of staff at the event to get their insights.
The funding for this documentary club, that's where it stands alone. Quite often people will ask you, well, in life, you spend money on this, but why aren't you spending it on that? I mean, that's just one of life's questions, isn't it, really? I've always been faced with those questions. But for me, it's not money that's coming from one place that's robbing somebody else. It's not like that at all.
So if we have projects which we feel would enhance the student experience, and that could be co-curricular, it might be projects that support curriculum as well, we hope that we're able to support them financially with small amounts of funding. It's never huge amounts, but some of our courses in technology design and environment include kit. They include stuff that students need to use. So every year we try to reinvest in that equipment through our process of capital bids. And that's open and accessible to all departments, but it also means that departments have to make sure that they run their budgets really well in order to create those surpluses, in order to reinvest.
On March 26th, the club had its first screening of Blackfish, a documentary about the captivity of whales. The free event had a successful turnout, which was a mixture of staff, students, and members of the public. But how does a documentary club fit in with current programs and become beneficial to students? John Dempsey, Senior Lecturer in Media, shares his thoughts.
Introduce students to a range of things they hadn't necessarily experienced before. Irrespective of where you want to end up, documentary is the foundation of everything we do within cinema. So no matter where you want to go, documentary is important.
BFI states there's been a steady increase over the last 13 years. From a low point of 4 in 2001, rising significantly to 89 in 2013.
I think there are lots of synergies for students to work together. There's already strong interest in documentary within the film course here within arts, coming up with projects that could be used by the club.
Could the funding of the documentary club lead to future success, or should have the funding been used elsewhere? Janelle Barshal, BrookesTV News.
What's being considered music is always changing. To show this shift, the Sonic Art Research Unit and Oxford Contemporary Music have set up a festival called Audiograft.
Welcome to the weird and wonderful world of the Audiograph Festival. Audiograft is a yearly festival focusing on sonic art. But what is sonic art?
Sonic art is a really slippery term. We use that term in the description of our research unit, the Sonic Art Research Unit. However, we'd probably prefer terms like sound art and experimental composition, which covers really clearly what we do.
The Audiograph Festival did not just feature sonic art. They also had concerts showcasing the latest contemporary composition. We went to the Icebreaker concert to explore the new and unique style of contemporary composition. This exhibition and these concerts pose a question. Is anything that creates sound considered art? Can you define these pieces as music? And are the general public engaging with this kind of art?
I'm not sure if everything that generates sound can be described as art. Often it's about how we as listeners frame it. So for me, my dishwasher is sound art. For other people, it's just a frustrating sound in the kitchen of an evening while they're trying to do something else.
Music can be anything that people want it to be. I suppose it depends how you define music.
Well, it seems a bit hollow, really, and to have a bell shut in inside a building like this seems rather pointless.
You can make music from so many objects. You don't necessarily have to have an instrument.
But what you find is when you experience it, when you immerse yourself in that sound, it's actually fascinating. And you understand that sound can be a lot more than a 3-minute pop song heard on the radio or streamed through Spotify.
The verdict seems to be out on the Audiograph Festival. However, the festival is back next year for more of the public to explore these unconventional pieces of art. I'm Lee Pendle from BrookesTV.
That's it for this half, but still to come. You're never too old to play sports. Walking Football aims at the over 50s.
And Bitter Street Food Festival has once again satisfied everyone's stomach with their new selection of street food around Oxford. Welcome back. I'm now joined by Chris and Rebecca, and who are going to talk to us about recycling clothes in Oxford. So Chris, you work at the Orinoco warehouse in Headington, the store. Could you tell us just about the work Orinoco does and about your relationship with the ReFashion event?
Well, we take things from the public and sell them again to the public at low cost, which are things which most people would be throwing away. So that includes scrap fabric and lots of other things for DIY, things for kids art, adults art, gardening stuff. In terms of ReFashion, we came along with some of our scrap fabric and we made things out of the scrap fabrics, and just to kind of show the sort of things that are possible.
Great. And Rebecca, you work as the Recycling Liaison Officer at Oxford County Council. Could you tell us why the City Council does events such as ReFashion?
Yep, so there's a real problem with textiles ending up in the bin and people just wearing clothes once and throwing them away. So we wanted to organise a high-profile event which highlighted the problem of this disposable fashion and show people how they can make their clothes last longer, repair them, upcycle them, that sort of thing.
Oh, that's great. And Chris, can you tell us just about how Orinoco started, like briefly how it began, and also about the lovely items you've brought along today, just how they came about?
Well, I'm afraid the origins of Orinoco are a mystery to me. It started 25 years ago, more than 25 years ago, so I wasn't around then. I've only been working at Orinoco for a couple of years. I've brought a few things which have been made out of mostly recycled fabrics, and which I've been learning how to use the sewing machine, learning how to get better at sewing. So I've been mostly concentrating on bags and cushions. So I've made a couple of Kindle cases. So this is a Kindle case. So it's and these are made out of roll ends of fabric. We often get roll ends which would otherwise be thrown away. This is quite interesting because it's one of those free bags that you get on aeroplanes, which I've used to line another bag with again with a scrap of leftover fabric. This is a cushion which I've made from a sample book. So this was a sample in a sample book. It's actually a Morris and Co fabric, and a bit of old velvet. So again, the stitching's gone a bit wrong here, but and that matches our.
So there's lots of different things that you can make out of the fabric that you get, which is really useful and resourceful as
Absolutely,
well.
yeah. And this is was made out of broken rulers. So this is for my. This is normally beside my desk with my teacup on it. So it's a tea mat for
really
made out of old rulers.
Thank you. Rebecca, just in terms of the ReFashion event, how is the funding organised for the event?
So the City Council and the County Council jointly fund the event, and to be honest, we try and get most of our things for free of charge, so we try and promote it through all the free channels like social media or press releases, and we get the town hall for a reduced rate, and luckily people like Chris come along and they bring their services along for free, which is really useful.
That's good. And Chris, in terms of health and safety, is there a process of like decontamination before you sell goods on? So with like any fabric or materials that you would get?
When things come in, we don't take used clothes for the scrap store itself. There is a swap shop once a month, so that's handled by the swap shop team. But when things come into the scrap store, we check them for safety, and we check to make sure that they don't pose a hazard. And if they do, we don't accept them in, basically.
Okay. And Rebecca, with regards to the £66,000 spent by councils in 2012 on like landfilling clothes, do you think that enough is being done in order to like promote awareness about recycling clothes to the general public? Or do you think it's still a worry?
No, I think it's something we really have to focus on. I think a lot of textiles are still ending up in the bin, and there is so much you can do with them at charity shops and upcycling and and donating them. So I really think we have to raise awareness of this.
That's great. Thank you very much for coming, and unfortunately that's all I've got time for, but thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now on to our next story. This month's Oxford Street Food Festival, Bitten Street, once again satisfied people's taste buds. Geoffrey Chew went to investigate and feast.
This month's Bitten Street Street Food Festival had once again drew people's attention with their selection of street food truck around Oxford.
Proper crispy onion bhajis and other sort of like more unusual Indian snacks.
So we serve our lamb in an artisan bap with salsa verde and lettuce.
From hot dogs and pizzas, slow-cooked lamb and steaks, to sweet cupcakes and fruit crumbles. More than 10 trucks are gathered in the Oxford Castle to provide food from starters to dessert and drinks with the recently added pudding lane.
I tasted food from Baker's Bhajis, and this is basically a food from my home country India, and they have done it very nicely, so I'm very happy about it.
I also went for the steak, but like courgette fries. It was cushy. But I am planning on having at least 2 more lunches today, so I look forward to finding out how good the rest of the food is. The beer is very good as well.
The 4 hours food market held by Bitten Oxford is to share and promote delicious street food to the people in Oxford.
It's a really nice sort of venue, and I think it's the first time Oxford's really had a street food market.
Obviously, with the occasion, lots of students, which is a great target market for us, and the sort of people, and everyone gets to have a chance to have a nice day out and try lots of different food. So it's great to be part of.
Bitten Oxford is an online food and drink guide started from the year 2013, including restaurant reviews, events, and other food-related news all around Oxford, hosted by food bloggers Jackie and Becca.
Whereas we will go incognito, they don't know we're coming, we'll pay for the meal, and then we'll review it afterwards and be as honest as possible. At the end of the day, it's always going to be our opinion, but we haven't been given a free meal to go and say something nice.
We've been surprised how many amazing street food traders there are in the area, but they just weren't trading in Oxford at all. They just didn't have anywhere to trade properly. Street food has been around for a little while now, but it's only, it hadn't really hit Oxford properly. There are markets that do have some street food, but we didn't have anything exclusively street food. So we really wanted to bring something like that here. So as long as there's an interest, and as long as people want to try the food,
and as long as we enjoy it, doing it as well, then we'll keep doing it.
Bitten Oxford had announced that the next Bitten Street will be held as the opening of the British Street Food Award, including food from all around the country. For more information, visit bittenoxford.co.uk. This is Geoffrey Chew reporting from BrookesTV.
I'm sorry. Oxford United Women played a Women's Soccer League home game against Yeovil Town. Lawrence Wong reports on how the game went and to see who won.
Oxford United fell to a 0-3 defeat at home to Yeovil Town and handed them their first FA Women's Super League 2 victory of the season, after conceding 3 second-half goals at the North Court football field. On the first half, neither side were able to find a way to score a goal. With 3 of their main players injured or dropped out, Oxford put up a good fight against the wall of Yeovil. Oxford United was just a leg away from giving the home team an early advantage when they were rewarded a free kick in a favourable position. After a goalless first half, both teams' players were met with nothing but disappointment. As the second half started, Oxford had few chances to get out of their own half. The second half was just 3 minutes old when Yeovil struck the decisive first blow. Yeovil Town's player was able to score a goal against an empty net. United responded with going on the offensive. They tried to undo the mistake by taking advantage of a free kick, but they were unable to work out any openings. While Yeovil were aggressively trying to get the second goal. Just after the hour mark, Yeovil were awarded a corner, and they took advantage. The home team were hit with another goal from Yeovil. The third and final goal from Yeovil was delivered from yet another corner after the home side failed to clear their half. With only 10 minutes on the clock, the Oxford United's players were starting to get desperate. Being impatient, the home side was unable to score a goal against the now confident Yeovil Town. This game demonstrates how chasing the game with a lack of confidence can really knock a team back. The match ended with Oxford United being beaten 0-3 by Yeovil Town. This is Lawrence Wong from BrookesTV Sports.
From running to walking football, slower-paced sports for the over-50s are slowly becoming more popular in central Oxford. We sent our reporter to Lees Pools and Leisure Centre to find out more.
At the beginning of March, walking football was introduced as a new sport in central Oxford. We went to a training session organised by Go Active to learn all about it.
Walking football is a slower version of the beautiful game. So it takes a traditional game of football, slowed down to walking pace. So kind of all the normal rules such as a goalie, outfield players, and normal kind of corners, goal kicks, throw-ins, free kicks, kind of slowed down to walking pace. If you run in a game of walking football, it's a free kick to the other team.
As the name suggests, walking football is a minimal contact version of five-a-side football targeted at the over 50s. Compared to its counterpart, it focuses more on the technical aspects of football rather than the physical, still offering physical benefits.
The main reason why I play walking football is the social and enjoyment aspect of walking football. I do enjoy, obviously, the result of the fitness aspect as well, but I do go to the gym, but I much rather play walking football than go to the gym.
Walking football is currently offered at 2 locations within central Oxford. Open training sessions take place every Wednesday and Saturday. However, so far, not many people have shown up.
It does take time for people to hear about it, and it does need time for people to understand what it's like, because some people might feel it's not for them. But that's why we need to encourage people to come along and see that it is really good fun. And I'm sure we'll get more people coming as time goes by.
Depending on the growth in numbers of players, future matches may be arranged to popularise the sport as well as increase the challenge. Ben Dossett, BrookesTV News.
And that's it for this week. Remember, all of our older episodes from previous series are available on the Oxford Brookes YouTube channel.
And if you'd like to get in touch, you can email us via brookestv@brookes.ac.uk. Goodbye.